John Miller parked his old sedan outside the grand facade of the Grand Oak Hotel, holding his daughter Lily's small hand in his. The night air was crisp, and the soft glow of the hotel's lights reflected off the polished stone entrance. John had visited this hotel many times before, not as a guest, but as the owner, though few people knew that. Tonight, however, he had chosen to blend in, to see the operations with fresh eyes, and to spend a quiet evening with Lily. "Daddy, it's so shiny," Lily exclaimed, her small face pressed against the glass doors. "I know, sweetie," John replied with a gentle smile, ruffling her hair. "But remember, it's just a building. The people inside are what make it special." Lily nodded solemnly, but her eyes sparkled with excitement. For a little girl, every hotel stay was a magical adventure, even if she didn't know that tonight's adventure would be far from ordinary. Inside, the lobby was bustling with guests and staff moving with precise professionalism. The marble floors gleamed under chandeliers, and the scent of fresh flowers filled the air. At the front desk stood Veronica, the hotel's newly appointed manager. She had an air of authority about her, sharp eyes that scanned the room constantly, and a pride that often prevented her from seeing the humanity behind the guests. "Good evening," John said, stepping up to the front desk. His voice was calm, polite, ordinary in every way. "I have a reservation under Miller. A room for two, preferably with a quiet view." Veronica looked at him briefly, her expression already hinting at judgment. John's attire, simple jeans, a faded sweater, and worn shoes, did not match the polished, high-profile clientele she usually dealt with. "Sir, may I see your ID and reservation confirmation?" she asked briskly. John handed over the papers. "Of course. Here you go." Veronica scanned them quickly, her lips pressing into a thin line. Mr. Miller. I see." Her voice carried a hint of impatience. "We'll see if a quiet room is available. The hotel is fully booked tonight. And, well, we usually accommodate corporate clients first." John nodded. "I understand. Just something comfortable for my daughter, and me is fine." Lily tugged at his sleeve. "Daddy, can I see the flowers?" John smiled at her, trying to keep the moment light, but Veronica's eyes narrowed slightly at Lily's presence, her irritation growing with each passing second. She prided herself on running a perfectly professional hotel, and she had no patience for what she considered ordinary guests who might complicate things. A small miscommunication occurred. John requested a minor adjustment for Lily's comfort, an extra pillow, a blanket, and a slightly warmer room. Veronica misread his gentle tone as demands, imagining him as another entitled guest trying to bypass rules. "I'm sorry, sir," she said sharply. "We cannot guarantee special accommodations. Our staff are already stretched thin. If you require anything beyond your standard reservation, I suggest you," she paused, her words trailing as frustration took over, "you make do like everyone else." John blinked. He had encountered impatience before, but not with this level of disrespect in front of his daughter. He opened his mouth to respond politely, but Veronica, fueled by pride and misjudgment, made a sudden and shocking move. She slapped him across the face. Lily gasped and buried her face into John's chest. Guests froze, their conversations halting mid-sentence. Staff members stiffened, unsure how to react. The sound of the slap seemed louder than the chandeliers above. John's hand instinctively went to his cheek, not out of pain but in disbelief. His calmness didn't falter. He knelt slightly to hug Lily, whispering, "It's okay, baby. Daddy's fine. Don't worry." Veronica's face flushed, a mix of anger, embarrassment, and the adrenaline of authority. This is unacceptable behavior," she stammered, pointing at John as if he were the one who had committed the crime. John remained calm, his voice soft but firm. "I didn't expect this, and I don't deserve it. But yelling or arguing in front of my daughter won't help anyone." He looked around at the staff, all frozen in uncomfortable silence. Sometimes people forget that we're all just human, ordinary people trying to do our best. Lily peeked up at him, her small hand clutching his. "Daddy, you're okay?" John smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "I'm okay, sweetie. Let's just get our room and settle in, all right?" The lobby remained silent. Veronica's anger was evident. but for the first time, there was a hint of doubt in her eyes. John wasn't the angry man she expected. He wasn't demanding, wasn't yelling, wasn't retaliating. He was ordinary, but he carried a strength she hadn't anticipated. John took a deep breath. He could have yelled, demanded apologies, or made a scene, but he chose a different path. His calm presence and unwavering patience in front of his daughter made a quiet but powerful statement. For 9 long minutes, the lobby hung in a strange tension. Guests shifted uncomfortably, unsure how to react. Staff exchanged uncertain glances. Veronica's pride battled an unfamiliar feeling, a growing awareness that she had misjudged this man entirely. John crouched slightly to Lily's level. You see, sweetie, some people forget to treat others kindly. But we don't have to forget. We always treat people with respect, no matter what. Lily nodded, wiping her eyes. I like that, Daddy. The scene in the lobby was tense, but beneath it lay a quiet truth. John wasn't extraordinary because of wealth or status. He was extraordinary because of patience, love, and dignity in the face of humiliation. The chapter closes with John standing tall, holding Lily's hand, his eyes calm but determined. He knew something had to change, not through anger, but by making people understand the value of respect. The ordinary man was about to make an extraordinary impact, and the night had only just begun. The lobby was silent. 9 minutes had passed since Veronica's slap. 9 minutes in which John Miller had stood firm, holding his daughter's hand, while the staff and guests watched in tense anticipation. The seconds felt like hours. Some staff glanced at one another nervously, unsure whether to intervene, and Veronica's face was a storm of conflicting emotions, anger, embarrassment, and, slowly, doubt. John took a deep breath, his eyes scanning the room. I think it's time we have a little honesty, he said softly but firmly, his voice carrying over the silence. You need to understand something about me and about ordinary people like me. Veronica stiffened, her arms crossed, but she didn't interrupt. She wanted to hear him, even if she didn't realize it yet. I'm a single dad, John continued, bending slightly to meet Lily's gaze before looking back at the staff. I wake up every morning, make breakfast, pack lunches, run a business, and try to be the best father I can be. Every day I do my best. Not because anyone is watching, not for awards or recognition, but because it's my job to protect and love my daughter. That's my ordinary life. The staff shifted, some lowering their eyes. Many of them had their own struggles, and hearing John speak with calm dignity stirred something unspoken in them. Tonight, John said, voice steady, I was slapped in front of my daughter. Not because I did something wrong, but because someone assumed that being ordinary made me less deserving of respect. That assumption is wrong, and that kind of behavior should never be allowed, not here, not anywhere. A hush fell over the room. Veronica's jaw tightened. She had expected anger, shouting, or retaliation, but not this quiet, measured authority. The staff watched, realizing they were witnessing someone who commanded respect without threatening anyone. John straightened, taking a step forward. I want everyone here to understand something very clearly. Respect isn't given because someone wears a suit, drives a fancy car, or owns a business. Respect is given because every human being deserves it. Ordinary people are still human. We make mistakes, yes, but we deserve dignity. We deserve kindness. He paused, glancing down at Lily. She squeezed his hand, silently giving him the courage to continue. I've tried to explain this gently tonight, but clearly words alone aren't enough. So I'm making a choice, not out of anger, but out of principle. This hotel, these staff, cannot continue as they are if ordinary people are treated this way. The staff exchanged confused looks. Some whispered, is he serious? John's gaze returned to Veronica. Effective immediately, the entire staff is relieved of their duties. Gasps echoed through the lobby. Veronica's eyes widened. Excuse me? You can't just... I can, John said quietly, because respect and empathy matter more than hierarchy or pride. This isn't punishment. It's a lesson. Every person here needs to understand that ordinary people, the ones you judge without knowing their story, deserve kindness. They deserve patience. They deserve dignity. Some staff members began to feel shame, realizing how often they looked down on guests, how quickly they assumed superiority. John's calm, gentle authority was a mirror showing them their own shortcomings. Veronica's face softened, a flicker of realization crossing her eyes. She had prided herself on efficiency and professionalism, but she hadn't considered the human side of the people she worked with or the guests she oversaw. John continued, his tone steady but kind. I'm not here to humiliate anyone. I'm here to teach something simple but powerful, that ordinary people are extraordinary in their resilience, their love, and their courage. I stood here without anger because I believe that even in injustice, we can choose dignity. Lily, small but perceptive, tugged at his sleeve. Daddy, they're listening to you. John smiled down at her. Yes, sweetie, and maybe, just maybe, this will make them kinder in the future. Veronica swallowed hard. John, I didn't realize. I didn't see. John nodded gently. It's okay. Recognition is the first step. Understanding comes next. He looked around at the staff once more. I hope you'll take a moment to reflect on what respect truly means, because this hotel and every place like it will only thrive when people treat one another as humans first and customers second. A quiet energy began to shift in the room. Staff members lowered their heads, murmuring apologies among themselves. Veronica's shoulders slumped as she recognized the truth in John's words. She had let pride blind her judgment, and now she felt the weight of her mistake. John knelt slightly to Lily's level. Sweetie, I'm proud of you for staying calm. You see, even when someone is mean or unfair, we don't have to become the same. We can respond with patience and love. Lily nodded, her small voice clear. I'm proud of you too, Daddy. The hotel lobby, once tense and charged with anger, now felt lighter, almost warm. Staff and guests alike began to understand that what had happened was bigger than a misstep. It was a lesson in humanity. John's decision to fire the staff wasn't about revenge. It was about accountability. He gave Veronica a chance to reflect, and the others a chance to understand that ordinary people like him weren't to be underestimated, mocked, or dismissed. Veronica finally spoke, her voice trembling slightly. John, I see now. I made a mistake. I judged without knowing. I'm sorry. John nodded, accepting the apology without bitterness. Thank you. That's all anyone can ask for. Understanding and kindness go a long way. Guests who had been watching whispered among themselves, moved by the scene. Staff who had once feared confrontation began to feel respect for the man who, despite being slapped and humiliated, had acted with patience and quiet strength. By the end of the 9 minutes, the atmosphere had shifted entirely. John wasn't just a guest. He was a teacher, showing through example how ordinary people could carry extraordinary courage and dignity. As he and Lily walked toward the elevators, staff began to murmur apologies again, and Veronica stayed behind, reflecting deeply. She had been challenged, humbled, and enlightened all in the span of a few minutes. John glanced at Lily and smiled. Come on, sweetie, let's get settled. Tomorrow is another day, and we'll see how people choose to grow. Lily squeezed his hand. I like that, Daddy. You're like a superhero. John laughed softly. Maybe ordinary superheroes exist too, sweetie. The chapter ends with John and Lily riding the elevator, leaving a lobby forever changed by a single act of calm courage, a lesson in respect, and the quiet strength of an ordinary man who refused to be humiliated. The morning sunlight poured gently through the hotel lobby windows, casting long streaks of warmth across the polished marble floor. The air, once tense and filled with unspoken judgments, now felt calm, almost hopeful. John and Lily were preparing to leave, but the impact of last night lingered like a quiet ripple, touching everyone who had witnessed it. Veronica stood behind the front desk, her posture more relaxed than it had been the night before. She had spent hours reflecting on John's words, replaying the incident in her mind. She had been proud, confident, and convinced she knew how to run a hotel. Yet in a few short minutes, John had shown her something far more important than efficiency or rules: humility, patience, and the extraordinary power of ordinary courage. She cleared her throat, gathering the courage to approach him as he adjusted Lily's backpack. John, she began softly, I want to apologize again. Last night was unacceptable. I let my pride blind me, and I fail to see you for who you really are." John turned, his face calm, eyes warm. He knelt slightly to meet Veronica's gaze. "Thank you, Veronica. Apologies are meaningful when they come with understanding. I believe you understand now, even if it took a moment to get here." Veronica nodded, a small smile tugging at her lips. "I do. I want to do better for the staff and the guests, for everyone. I've realized that running a hotel isn't just about rules or appearances. It's about people. And I want to make things right." John's eyes softened, and he nodded in encouragement. "It's never too late to start. Change begins with one choice, and you made yours." Meanwhile, the staff, who had gathered nearby, looked nervous yet attentive. They had spent the night reflecting on John's words. Many had never considered the life of an ordinary guest, let alone someone balancing work, parenting, and personal struggles. One young staff member spoke up, her voice shaky. "Mr. Miller, I think we all judge too quickly. We didn't see how hard it is to do what you do. We were sorry." John smiled gently. "Apology accepted. But more than that, I hope you remember this lesson. It's not about fear or punishment. It's about understanding, empathy, and respect. Treating people with dignity isn't optional. It's necessary." The room seemed to shift in response to his words. Staff who had been fearful and defensive now looked thoughtful, some nodding quietly. Even Veronica seemed transformed, no longer the strict, impatient manager from last night, but a woman willing to learn from her mistakes. John crouched slightly, pulling Lily close. "Sweetie, remember what we talked about? Even when someone makes a mistake, we can respond with kindness. That's how change begins." Lily smiled, her eyes shining. "I remember, Daddy, and I think they understand now." John smiled back at her. Indeed, he could see it. The staff were looking at him not as a problem to manage, but as a human being deserving of respect, just like everyone else. Veronica stepped forward again, her voice filled with sincerity. "John, I want to make amends. Not just with you, but with the hotel. I want to start fresh, with a focus on empathy, on valuing every guest, no matter who they are. I want to make this place a home, not just a hotel." John nodded approvingly. "That's all anyone can ask for. And it's a good start." He looked around at the staff. "You all have a choice, too. You can carry this lesson forward. Treat others with kindness, even when it's difficult. That's what makes life meaningful." The staff began to speak among themselves, some quietly admitting mistakes, others sharing personal stories of struggles and misjudgments. A quiet camaraderie formed, built on newfound understanding. John and Lily watched, hearts full, as the hotel, once a place of tension, began to feel like a community. Finally, it was time to leave. John adjusted Lily's backpack and held her hand tightly. "Ready to go, sweetie?" "Ready," Lily exclaimed, her excitement renewed. She glanced back at the staff. "Bye-bye." "Thank you." Staff waved, some with shy smiles, others with genuine warmth. Veronica stood behind the desk, watching them go. Her eyes glistened slightly as she spoke softly. "Goodbye, John. Goodbye, Lily. Thank you for teaching us." John smiled, lifting Lily slightly off the ground to hug her. "We didn't do it alone. It's all of us, together." As they walked out the hotel doors, the morning sun bathed them in light. The lobby behind them had been transformed, not by rules or authority, but by the quiet, steadfast courage of an ordinary man and the love he carried for his daughter. The hotel staff would carry that lesson forward, and the culture of the place would never be the same again. Lily tugged at John's hand as they stepped onto the sidewalk. "Daddy, we really did it, didn't we?" John chuckled softly. "We did, sweetie. And remember, the most extraordinary people aren't the ones with power or money. They're the ones who stay kind, even when it's hard." They walked away from the hotel, ordinary in appearance, but extraordinary in the lessons they had left behind. The staff waved until they were out of sight, and Veronica lingered a moment longer, reflecting on the transformation. She had learned that leadership isn't about control, it's about compassion. John glanced down at Lily, smiling at her bright eyes. "One day, you'll teach others, too." Ordinary people like us have the power to change the world, one act of kindness at a time. Lily hugged him tightly. I'll remember, Daddy. I promise. The story ends with them walking hand in hand down the street, leaving the Grand Oak Hotel behind, but taking with them a heart full of love, dignity, and the knowledge that ordinary people can inspire extraordinary change. And in the lobby, the staff and Veronica began the day differently, mindful, compassionate, and reminded that the smallest act of understanding could change lives forever.